Welcome back to One True Podcast. I'm Zach Smith, and my guest today is Danny Davis, who covers Texas, all things Longhorns for the Austin American-Statesman. But today we're going to be talking about some women's basketball. Danny, how are you doing? Thanks for joining me today.
Looking forward. I guess we're going to talk about the winning programs at both schools, both Texas and Baylor, with these football seasons going the way that they went.
Hey, Baylor was technically invited to a bowl game. I mean, I know that it still is a losing season and things are pretty bad, but technically, I mean, they're not Texas level, but yes, we're talking about the winning programs. You're exactly right. Speaking of winning, Texas has done a lot of it lately. I mean, Texas has always been a good team, it seems, but like this season, they just seem like really good. Ranked number 2, still undefeated. They have wins over UCLA, South Carolina. Just how good is this team, and what makes them so difficult to play against?
I think we got a lot of answers over the Thanksgiving holiday. And then I guess you can go back to last week at the ACC, SEC Challenge or whatever they're calling it when they beat North Carolina, which was a top 15 team at the time. Texas opened the season with 5 wins, but they weren't. I mean, they were impressive score-wise, but they were just beating up on, you know, the equivalent of Waco High and Austin High down here in Austin. They weren't really beating anybody. But they just, I mean, the UCLA game was the beating. I think it was 10 points in the end, but it was a beatdown in South Carolina, which had been Texas's problem the entire season last year. They dropped 3 of 4, including in the Final Four in the SEC championship game to them last year. So they've proven they can win in big games. They've proven they can win in big stages against elite competition. I mean, that South Carolina team is probably a Final Four team. In Texas, it's just done a good job of building off their momentum from last year. This is a deep team, even though they're really banged up right now. They still have about 7, 8 players who are healthy right now that they can rely on, that they feel confident in, and they have good veteran senior play, leadership. And
Mm-hmm.
Madison-Booker's a junior, but she might as well be a senior. She's 2-time All-American, about to become a 3-time All-American. And then rori-harmon's rori-harmon. I mean, you have the 5th-year point guard with her resume and her accolades. That's a great place to start. And so defensively, they're playing really well. Offensively, they've gotten better, and that starts with Rory's improvements since coming off her knee injury 2 years ago. And you just put it all together with some of the newcomers they have and some of the energy those transfers have infused into this team, and it's a recipe for success so far. We'll see what happens down the road, but so far so good.
You mentioned rori-harmon, and I mean, even when I was in Austin around this team a little bit, she was there, and even then, she was an All-American or fringe All-American, and like really the leader of this team. And wasn't it before she got injured? She almost went pro, right? Isn't that a thing? And why is she stuck around, and how crucial is she to just how this team making this team go?
It was 10 games into her junior, 12 games into her junior year when she got hurt. So I don't think she was flirting with any pro prospects. I mean, she was probably starting to pop up on some WNBA mock drafts or some stuff like that. But she was a junior when she got hurt, so she hadn't really foregone any pro decisions. But going back to her freshman year when she beat Baylor at the Big 12 championship game, and she beat Baylor at the Big 12 championship game. I mean, there's 4 other people on the court, but that was the rori-harmon show, and that was her breakout as a freshman. And vic-Schaefer runs this team around his point guard. I remember when Rory was a freshman, she would come to every single press conference. It didn't matter if she had a great game, didn't matter if she had an average game, didn't matter if she played poorly. Vic insisted that she was at every press conference because she was the point guard, she was the quarterback of the team, she was the leader of the team, even as a freshman, and that she needed to be accountable and speak for the team. He doesn't do that as much now. She gets a night off every once in a while, but that just kind of shows us how much he stresses his point guard. And she's the leader of the defense, and Vic-Schaefer loves defense. She is going to pick you up. Vic often says she'll pick you up at the city limits and drop you off at the other side of town. So she leads the defense. She's obviously the all-time assist leader at Texas. So that shows what she means on offense. And she's just someone that's going to play 40 minutes a game unless it's a blowout or unless she gets into some foul trouble, that she's going to be on the court for 40 minutes. So just leadership wise, defense wise, offense wise, she's not everything on this team because Madison-Booker is a great player too, and they have some other good players on this team. But it begins and starts at number 3, and she is the heart and soul of this team.
I mean, it's pretty incredible when I look at rori-harmon. Like, yeah, she can, maybe one night she'll score 3 points and dish out 10 assists, and the other night she's scoring what 30 points and hitting the game winner over South Carolina. Is that right? Like she's just like she can do it all, and she can kind of pick her spots to like either fill up the assists or points, and like she's that kind of player, and she's exactly like she is incredible. She is Texas basketball to me. Like Madison Booker might be a better player and a WNBA player, but Rori-Harmon, man, like she is Texas basketball. Like put her number in the rafters eventually. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
I definitely think that's fair. I think she's Vic-Schaefer. I don't know if she's
Right.
Texas basketball,
That's
but
fair.
she is definitely the embodiment of what Vic-Schaefer wants his Texas team to be, which is why, she's either their first recruit or their second recruit once Vic got on board. I can't remember if her or Leah Moore committed first, but
Mm.
she was on board from the very beginning. Vic often jokes that when he was at Mississippi State, he was burning. He was burning through that charter plane flying from Starkville to Houston to recruit her. So he's wanted her for 10 years or whatever it's been, and she's just been an embodiment of him. And I think Madison told me the other day that she's just a Vic-Schaefer on the court. Like she is the head coach, and she is she is the what gets this thing going. And like you said, I think the Washington Post wrote a story this week about her. I think she's like eighth in points on the team, but
Mm.
obviously, what we saw what she could do against UCLA or against South Carolina. I don't think she scored that many points, but the game was going out. There was no doubt who was touching that ball. It's either her or if or she's passing it to Madison. It's one of those two. And she got confident and was feeling herself and hit that shot. So I like you said, she is this iteration of Texas basketball. She is the representative of Vic Schaefer on the court. And if they win a national championship, her numbers will be up in the rafters. They can retire her and Madison's 35 at the same time together.
I wanted to ask about Madison Booker because, like, looking at her stats, like, from the moment she got to Texas as a freshman to now, like, she has been incredibly consistent across the board. And I'm curious for you, is Madison one of the best players overall, all around players that you've ever seen at Texas? And like, what is, how consistent, how much better is she, if at all?
Yeah, Madison, consistent is the right word. I think she's just like
Mm.
16 and a half. That's what she's been her entire time here. I mean, her stats are pretty consistent. Everyone kind of knows what her deal was her freshman year when she came in and Roy got hurt right away. So they, instead of, digging in the bench and trying to find a backup point guard, they're like, hey, our 6'1" small forward, go run our offense for us. And she did that and was, the Big 12 MVP and tournament MVP and all that stuff. And All-American as a freshman, All-American obviously last year when she got to return to her natural position. I think she's gotten a lot better defensively this year, which was really a point of emphasis for her this summer. I think the best thing to happen to her this summer is she played with the Team USA team, which she's done pretty much her entire basketball playing career. But they went down to one of those tournaments, and when you have a Hannah Hidalgo or Audie Crooks or some of the other some of those other players on the team, you don't need to be an offensive star. So she was like, let me just work on my defense while I'm down here, and I think that's really benefited her this year. So she's just been very, very consistent. I don't know if she's the best player
Mm.
I've seen here because once again, I've covered Rory for 5 years, and my second year on the beat was Charlie Collier's breakout season when she ended up being the number one pick in the WNBA draft. So I've been blessed to cover some good basketball players here, and obviously seeing some of those prime late stage multi teams at Baylor come through town every once in a while too. I got to see some pretty good Bears too. But Madison, she's on her way to maybe being the all-time leading scorer here at Texas, which means a lot. And being one of, if not the best players in school history, she can kind of continues this trajectory. So she's obviously very special, and Texas fans are very, very happy that she is theirs.
I would be remiss as the Baylor beat guy that I wouldn't mention that Darianna-Littlepage-Buggs also went to that camp with Madison Booker with the Team USA. She didn't make the team, but she was there. I know Baylor people are, just keeping Baylor in the conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna laugh because I feel like Darian has been at Baylor for as long as Rory's been in Austin. I feel like that both those players have been around for like 10 years, but they're finally seniors now. So that makes me feel a little old if you couldn't tell it from the white of my beard.
I think didn't Buggs have a big game in Austin as a freshman? I know Sarah
Yeah.
Andrews certainly did, but I think it was Buggs as well that kind of went off as a true freshman in Austin. I know Baylor. We'll get to that, but Baylor's had plenty of good moments in this rivalry in Austin. But I did want to ask about the rest of Texas. You mentioned you're a little banged up. Are there what injuries is Texas dealing with, and is there any chance that anyone returns this weekend for the Baylor game?
Well, Vic likes to play injuries pretty close to the vest, especially before SEC play happens, and he kind of has that metaphorical gun to his head, and he has to do some
Mm,
better reporting on that. But they have three people they expect to contribute out right now. They have Brianna Preston, who's their spark plug backup point guard, who is a backup in name only because she can play alongside Rory at the two or move Rory to the two, and those two can play together. A really good player to come off the bench, really energetic, provides a lot to this team. They don't beat Tennessee in the Sweet 16 last year if Bree's not on the team, but she's been out with an ankle injury since middle of November. Aaliyah Crump, who was their top, number 5 recruit in this past recruiting class, started her first game as a freshman. I think almost maybe like 15 points in her debut. It's going to be a very good player for them, but she's dealing with some foot issues. Didn't play in the UCLA game, so whatever that is, last 4 or 5 games she's been out. And then Ashton Judd, who came over from Missouri this offseason, was expected to maybe start or at least contribute kind of as a 3-4. Hasn't played the entire season because of a knee issue. I think Bree, there may be a chance she plays this weekend. Vic said none of them are playing tonight. We'll see if that actually is the case when they play UTRGV. But Bree did not have her boot on this past
mm.
Sunday. Aaliyah still did. Ashton, they originally said late November, early December is when they were expecting her back. We haven't really got an update on her, but I wouldn't be shocked if Bree's back this weekend. But I'm also not their doctor, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But I think Bree's probably the closest coming back, and that will be nice to at least take a little bit of a burden off Rory. I mean, Rory's going to play 40 minutes against Baylor regardless, but some of these other games where they don't need her to be, playing 40. I think she played 34 this past weekend against Prairie View A&M, which is not something you need necessarily from your 5th-year senior point guard. She needs to get a little bit of rest. So getting Bree in there to mix it up and give them a change of pace and get Rory some rest will be good when she's healthy.
I didn't tell me about the Texas post players. Because Baylor, at least last year, didn't really have much depth in that position. This year they do. They brought in Kirsten Johnson, a former Duncanville player from Oklahoma. Kyla Abraham is another player that has really stepped up in her junior year. And then a 4-star freshman, or well, now sophomore, Kaylin Nelms. So they really have some kind of versatility with their size and down low. How dominant can Texas or has Texas been down low, and what does their kind of post player, depth chart look like?
Texas really hasn't been, I don't think, been tested that much in the paint. UCLA obviously has Lauren Betts, and they did a pretty good job against her. And South Carolina is always going to have size, and they had a pretty good weekend in Vegas. But North Carolina likes to run like 4 guards, so it wasn't like they were overly tested. And then these mid majors, I mean, they may have
Right.
size, but they're not talented size. But Texas had to do a little retooling in the paint with Taylor Jones moving on, but Kyla Oldacre is back, and she, as Texas fans know, came on really strong in the tournament. Um, Vic really likes bringing her off the bench as opposed to starting her. I think some of us thought she'd be kind of the shoe-in starter. I think Vic likes bringing her off the bench and throwing her against maybe some tired centers or the second string centers for the other team because she's a starter coming off the
Mm-hmm.
bench. Bria Cunningham, they brought over from Arizona, who was a top 20 recruit in Madison-Booker's class, and she had 30 this past weekend against Prairie View A&M. It's Prairie View A&M, but still 30. So I mean, that's a talented player with that pedigree. And then they have some nice fours. Taya Sidbury came over from Boston College, was a great rebounder and scorer for them last year. Justice Carlton, who I'm really high on, was a top 12 recruit in that 2024 class, and struggled to find some playing time last year because vic-Schaefer demands you play defense, and Justice struggled a little bit on that end, but she's really worked on her you know really worked on herself this past season and getting her body better in the weight room. She's 2 years removed now from her knee surgery, and she's had some really good flashes at that Las Vegas tournament. Candace Parker couldn't stop talking about her because she played really well against South Carolina off the bench. And then Ashton Judd, who I mentioned earlier, is kind of like a 3-4 hybrid. She looks like a 3 to me, but Vic insists she can play the 4. So when she's healthy, that gives them another option down there. So I mean, they it's not the Charlie Collier area. It's not
Mm.
the it's not Queen Egbo, Baylor, none of those players. But it's they have some talent down there and some players who I think are definitely going to hold up when we see SEC play. And because Vic loves to, as much as Rory-Harmon is who Rory-Harmon is and Madison-Booker is who Madison-Booker is, if Vic could feed the post 50 times a game, he'd do that. So those players definitely fit into his system and what he wants to do.
We just had Karen Aston come through Waco last week, so the Charlie Collier conversations were lively in Waco this last week. You mentioned defense and how Vic loves defense. Taliah Scott has been filling it up for Baylor since she got here, transfer from Auburn, and she has scored 20 points in all but one game. She scored 20 or sorry, 30 this a couple days ago in a win over Alabama State. Does a kind of a high volume, she's currently second in the Big 12, I believe, in scoring. Does a high volume scoring guard like that? Do you think Texas will be intimidated trying to slow her down a little bit? Or obviously playing UCLA and South Carolina, they've been able to handle that. Like, how do you think they're going to attack Taliah Scott?
Imagine, as much as we, fawned over Rory setting that, record last week. I mean, that's an offensive record. I'm sure she gets a lot more pleasure out of some of her defensive accomplishments. So I'm sure when she sees a high volume guard or some of these other guards who may, get that defensive assignment, that's something that kind of lights them up. And I'm sure
Mhm.
Vic has lost a little bit of sleep trying to plan for this. I mean, he'll insist that he's been preparing for UTRGB, but okay. I'm sure they've been thinking a lot about Baylor, and it probably helps that him and Johnny are so close, and that so I'm sure they've talked about her in the past, and he may have a little bit of intel, I guess. But yeah, I mean, Texas, I don't think Texas is intimidated by any high volume score. They've definitely faced their share over the years. Some of those players have gotten the best of Texas. So,
Mm.
Texas is not shutting. Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen a player coming in averaging 20 and get held to zero. But Texas is definitely going to make life miserable for whoever has the ball, and it's going to be if they get theirs, they get theirs. The Longhorns will tip their hat to them afterwards, but it's not going to be fun. Vic loves to say the whole "we don't stand around in a 2-3 defense, make you miss defense" or whatever that exact saying is, and they're gonna make the Bears work for whatever points they get. But this is also a talented Bears team. It's not like Taliah is the only person that can score on this team. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see exactly what the game plan is and how Nikki adjusts if they do manage to shut down the top guns.
As much as Nikki wanted to talk about, yeah, we played Alabama State, we beat Alabama State. There were a lot. You could tell that the Texas preparation was already kind of working in her head,
Mhm.
even Tuesday morning. This rivalry is, long and has, former conference foes. You mentioned Kim Mulkey. She was here and won a lot. What are some of your favorite moments from this rivalry, and do you think Vic and Nikki should keep this game going?
Yeah, I'm one of the very few people in Austin who just got a kick out of Kim. I love Kim. I thought she was great. I mean, she cracked me up. I only got maybe 2 years overlap with Kim in my time on the beat. I came on that season that was cut short by the pandemic, so
Mm.
maybe 1 year, whatever it was, but 2 years because she was here Vic's first year at Texas. But I mean, I don't know how it's felt in Waco, and I don't know exactly how it's felt exactly everywhere in Austin, but I thought it was a real shame these two teams didn't play last year.
Hmm.
Um, quite frankly, I thought it was inexcusable. These are two really good basketball programs that are 90 miles apart from each other. It is free money for both schools. It
Hmm.
is not that hard to do a home and home, and both games are going to sell out whether you're down in Austin or up in Waco. These are two knowledgeable fan bases, perennially good basketball programs, and good tests for both schools. So I did not understand why those two schools didn't play. It's not, maybe it's the whole Big 12 bad blood, or I don't know if Vic and Nikki are BFFs or whatnot. But these two teams should be playing every year. I'm glad that it's a little sad, I guess. It took a little NIL money to get them to go travel to Fort Worth to get them back together. But this is something that should happen every year, in my opinion. And it's it's just free money. It's a good test
Mm-hmm.
for both schools, and I don't know why. Um, it took Fort Worth to get these guys back together, but I'm glad they did, and hopefully these schools will continue to play each other. And well, I'll get to see you up in Waco, or you can come see me at the Moody Center. And these two teams, but with the history that they have, and this is a rivalry that dates back to the '70s. Jody played at Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously some good battles for a long time. Maybe not so much while Kim was there, because Kim kind of owned Karen and in Gale, but with the way they came in his second year, and they beat Baylor at that Big 12 tournament and really started to kind of turn the tide. I think it's a lot more even. These battles should be a lot more spirited, and there's no reason for these teams not to play routinely. Maybe not twice a year, but at least once a year.
I totally agree. This is a game that needs to happen. I mean, it's such a good rivalry, and now that Texas is in the big bad SEC, like there's still some lingering hatred. Hatred might not be the right word between Baylor and Texas, but at least the fans, and like to have it even on the women's basketball side, like you said, these are just two really good teams that you really want to see good basketball, and that's what they consistently put out. And so yeah, I really hope they keep going on this. It's just something that absolutely needs to happen.
Last year,
Well,
Vic would always be complaining, I can't, fill my schedule. I can't get people to play. And it's like, pick up the phone,
right.
You have Nikki's number. Pick up the phone, do what y'all have to do to get this done. And I'm sure once again, or go ahead and play Prairie View and Alabama State. I mean, I think one of these programs would be a better test than the other, but I'm also not paid to be a head basketball coach on the Division I level.
I mean, I well, I mean, I don't want to get into Texas football versus should they be playing Ohio State. That's a conversation for another day. But
Yes, I'm tired. I'm all done with that conversation. I can't do it anymore.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining me. Tell the people where they can read you, follow you, watch you, all the things.
Yeah, thestatesman.com. I don't encourage anyone to ever follow me on Twitter, because Twitter is a cesspool, and my profile can be kind of unhinged at times too. So thestatesman.com, follow us, find us on YouTube. We have our Longhorn Confidential podcast, and me and my colleagues, I think we do an excellent job, whether you're wanting to follow the Longhorns, Aggies, high school sports, whatever. So yeah, statesman.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.